Porsche produce more race cars than any manufacturer in the world. The Porsche Supercup offers some of the most entertaining racing of any race meeting you'll ever see, and Porsche are known around the world for a mark of quality, pride and unwielding competitiveness. So back in Leipzig last November, when it was announced that Porsche was a partner of iRacing to create the Porsche Esports Supercup, sim racers around the world all took notice. Over the next 5 months, drivers will compete in 10 races for a prize pool of over $100,000. 10 of the world's most iconic racetracks will see 40 drivers compete for points in a double-header race meeting with a 15-minute sprint followed by a 30-minute feature. There's $1,000 to the winner of each feature race and a point at play for both qualifying and each race. Consistency and speed are certainly key. So with that, on this historic weekend of motorsports, it is my honour to welcome you to Barber Motorsports Park and welcome to the Porsche Esports Championship live on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on the iRacing Esports Network. What a sight and what an opportunity for 40 of the world's best road racers right here, right now at Barber Motorsports Park, as we are about 15 minutes away from going green. My name's Will Vincent. I'll be joined, Paul Smith and Connery Maddock. We'll be taking you through the 2 races. We're going to have a chat with Dom Duhan, team principal for Team Redline, in just a few moments' time. But to kick off a historic new season, it is only fair that we get someone from Porsche in to talk to us. And at that point, let me say hello to Marco Yahasi as well. Marco, after so many months of planning, we are finally here. It is the Porsche Esports Super Cup, and we are going to have 10 fantastic races in the next 5 months. I believe we might have just lost Marco there. We'll try and get him back in at just a moment's time. But as we say, we have got 10 races coming up for you over the course of the next 5 months. And let's just put up that schedule graphic for you right now. We start here today at Barber Motorsports Park. In a few weeks' time, we'll head ourselves over to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Spa-Francorchamps, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the Canadian Tires Motorsports Park, Watkins Glen, Silverstone, Nürburgring, Laguna Seca and Monza. That is our slate of races over the next 5 months. And let's try and see if we can get Marco once again. Marco from Porsche, it is great to have you with us. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, Vince. Very warm welcome also from my side. Very excited.
We're here, we've started, the season is now, and of course you've done a lot of work over the last 6 months to a year getting this off the ground. How excited are you?
Unbelievably excited, because in my opinion it's a milestone in the Porsche Motorsports history to adding all those fantastic sim racers to our family. Unbelievably happy.
Well, I mean, a couple of questions. First one, why has Porsche got so engaged with esports racing over the last couple of years?
A simple answer. It's about competition and passion, and this is exactly where Porsche's DNA is. And competing on the same material, let's say it like this, is exactly what we are doing for more than 2 decades now in our one-make series. So it's just up to the driver, and yeah, this is competition on its purest and highest level.
So what is that Porsche's looking to try and achieve through this esports program that you set up with iRacing, especially with, of course, the Porsche Esports Super Cup?
Like I mentioned before, we are supporting competition on the highest level, and we find it here in that series, and we want to give sim racers a home and a perspective, probably, to turn their passion into a profession.
Well, of course, we're at the Porsche Sim Racing Summit at Leipzig. We saw Nick Tandy, driver, of course, to the Porsche Works team, competing, getting himself actually onto the podium at that event. Are you actually trying to find new drivers through this esports exercise?
Well, all our factory drivers are very much involved in the sim racing stuff, and when we talked to Nick the first time if he wants to compete in Leipzig, he was also very nervous and very happy about that, because it's competition on the highest level and not in his home ground. So yeah, we were quite happy to bring all those worlds together, and I'm quite sure it wasn't the last time we saw such kind of a format.
Well, I remember back at Leipzig when people saw the $100,000 prize pool, there were gasps around the arena. Why $100,000? Why that amount of prize money?
The esport racing is performance, pure performance, and to show that you have to spend a lot of time, a lot of your energy into that, to practice, to getting better and so on. So we say it's just a fair thing to make it even more professional, and we support that with the prize money.
Well, one thing I will say, of course, is that at Leipzig we had so much fun. Myself, Paul and Conor were there. Are there more activities, more events like that in the works?
Yeah, Leipzig was a very important starting point, getting in touch with community and with all the potential stakeholders, starting with the sim racers, but also with the guys from the industry, with you guys. And yeah, we will see that again. It was a great success, and like I said, just a starting point. More to come. Final question. Is this a serious sport, or is this just marketing for you guys? This is the simplest answer. It's pure sport, because it's competition on the very highest level. But like in the real motorsport, highest competition deserves definitely a good marketing around it, that the world realize what's going on. So it's sports, and we try to market this as good as possible.
Well, I know that you are at TwitchCon today, and of course we're streaming live on Twitch, on Facebook and on YouTube this afternoon. Thank you so much, Marco, for taking the time out of what I know is a very busy day to come and talk to us today. What are you looking forward to in this race?
Good competition, fair competition, and like always, the best driver should win. And with that, maybe a bit experimental format, it will be excited till the last corner, hopefully. Well, thank you very much there, Marco Yahassi, then the head of esports for Porsche Motorsports, and fantastic to talk to you here today. One thing we're also going to do over the course of this season is we want to talk to all of the team managers, and what we're going to do at this point is we're going to welcome in Dom Duhan, who is team principal for Team Redline. Well, Dom, this is a bit of a change, isn't it?
Yeah, where are the wings?
Yeah, well, there's spoilers. We've got some spoilers on these cars, but as we see a Team Redline car flashing through turn number 1 and 2, I mean, it's been a long journey since Leipzig, through the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. You've got yourself a handful of drivers, Gregor Hütterenzer Benito, as well as Graham Carroll here today. Team Redline, they had it against them the last couple of years in terms of the World Championship Grand Prix Series. It's a new start here in the Porsche Esports Supercup. Does that mean that you think that Team Redline can get back to their winning ways?
I would hope so. I mean, you know, we're strong across multiple sims. Certainly, iRacing presented this challenge with Porsche. It's fantastic to see these competitions happening. It raises the whole of sim racing, so super excited. And yes, just going back to our drivers as well, obviously Gregor is a veteran in sim racing. He won the first iRacing World Championship back in 2010, and that's quite a long time ago. We've got Enzo, who did the pro season and competed well, got a couple of wins, I think. And we signed a new driver, Marcus Jensen, who did very well last year in the World Championship. So Graham's no longer with us. He's still a team friend. So just a heads up.
Apologies. Yeah, I was going to say that as we're about to head into qualifying, have you spoken to the drivers? Are they nervous? Are they excited? And what do you think about the race format?
I think the race format's super exciting. We've got to mix it up a bit, and doing sprint and feature is a good idea. You've got to get people really interested in this whole kind of sim racing feature. And then, yes, so the guys nervous, everybody. If you're not nervous, you're not interested, and the guys will always be nervous, but fair play to them.
Yeah,
it's going to be exciting. Super tight.
Yeah, what are you looking forward to the most here today?
I want a clean race. I just want the guys to be able to compete to their best of their ability. It's going to be 40 cars on Barber. I mean, wow, it's going to be a sight to see.
Well, let's say goodbye to you then. Thank you so much. Dom Newhan, team principal for Team Redline. There is the schedule again up on the left-hand side of your screen. 10 rounds worth of racing, but qualifying is underway. At this point, let me hand over to your commentary team for the Porsche Esports Supercup, Paul Matthew Smith and Connery Maddock.
Thank you very much, Will, and well, here we are. We're finally at the first event of this magnificent and truly exciting championship. I'm chomping at the bit for this one, really looking forward to the action. And Connery, we've got 40 of the best sim racers in the world competing here in the Porsche Esports Supercup.
Yeah, we do. It's basically the who's who of sim racing, the who's who of iRacing, especially out there on circuit right now. Just getting their first installation laps in here for qualifying, riding on board with champion of World Championships previous. That is going to be Martin Kroenke. Such a dominant performance over the past couple of years on the open wheel side of things, but it's a huge adaptation to try and do the same here in the Tim Top cars.
Well, we are, of course, starting qualifying. Drivers are just starting their first hot lap here, so we'll be keeping an eye on the times and how they're getting on here. But just to quickly touch on what these drivers are trying to do. Yes, it's qualifying. You want to get a quicker time as possible, but the first 8 cars on that grid from qualifying gets inverted for the sprint race. It's an interesting format, and it's something that you, Connery, have been looking into in great depth.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get points for qualifying, but the top 8 get inverted. So P1 through 5 in qualifying get points, and the rest of them get absolutely nothing, but top 8 get inverted. So that is going to be a very interesting sort of dynamic in this qualifying session. Yes, you want to go for points, but you know, when you're trying to push for those points, you end up sort of hurting yourself a little bit come the sprint race, and you have to make your way back up through that top 10. That would be an interesting predicament for many drivers indeed, and it'll just be a matter of time before we see the first qualifying times be set up onto the scoreboard and see where all of these drivers lie.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to see those times starting to come up on screen, and Freddie Rasmussen straight away is the first man to set a qualifying time. A 23.060 is what he's set. Aaron Sherlock, look at that though, really close, just 8/100ths of a second behind Freddie Rasmussen. Enzo Benito coming in with an even quicker time, so the times are starting to come in thick and fast here as we look on board with Maximilian Benecke, of course, a world champion in the GT series. He's coming across the line. What lap time will he set? A 23.193. Good grief, he's 6th place there with that time, so really good time. But look at that from Josh Rogers straight away, 22.699.176 ahead of Sebastian Job.
Yeah, fantastic performance from the Australian part of the VRS Coanda SimSport Armada, it seems like, in this series. They have 10 plus entries here for the 10 race days that we'll have here in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, and Joshua Rogers continuing on his good form from the test races that we had a couple of days ago. Sebastian Job, though, with a good performance, getting himself up there for Red Bull Racing G2 Esports there. And then Jared Filsell again from Australia up into P3 in qualifying at this moment in time. So that's the first flurry of qualifying laps coming in there, Paul. And that is incredibly interesting indeed, because we have what would otherwise be a front runner in the series, Fredrik Rasmussen. He's currently in P5.
As Rogers is going to carry on and complete this lap here. Will he improve his time? 22.679. So yes, he does by 2/100ths of a second. So that's his qualifying done. You only get 2 flying laps in this qualifying session, and with 2 minutes remaining in this, time is running out for drivers who haven't set a lap time. One of those is the VRS Coanda SimSport driver, Mitchell de Jong. He's one of them drivers there. We've also got a few others down there: Patrick Holtzman, Lauren Heinrich, Ricardo Castroleda. Jamie Fluke has just set a time, put himself 5th place in qualifying, but here comes Mitchell de Jong out of the final corner and across the start and finish line, a 23.0. He's got time to do one more lap here so he does have the opportunity to improve, but that only puts him in 7th place here in your qualifying session here.
Yeah, absolutely. Riding on board with Kazuki Umeshima, who is also a driver that has not set a lap time just yet for that Burst Esports Porsche, and he's going to abandon the lap. Kazuki Umeshima won't be starting anywhere near the front of this grid today. No qualifying time set, and well, he's going to be on probably what's going to be the last row here of the grid come that sprint race, as the rest of the drivers now in desperation try to get their final qualifying laps in. Of course, in this format, you only get 2 flying laps here, solo qualifying, so the drivers cannot see each other out there on track. They cannot interact with each other. It's just them versus the track. Lauren Henright for Williams Esports across the line. Where is he able to go? He's currently P21 for Henright. Yeah,
Lauren Heinrich then not setting a fast time there for him. He'll be disappointed with that. But 2 drivers really disappointed. Moritz Lerner and Kazuki Umeshima, they are not going to finish. Sebastian Job, well, he's just gone out there just to get a few more laps under his belt. And with 10 seconds remaining, Mitchell de Jong he moves up to 4th place, right at the death of qualifying there. So with that and the time ticking down, we'll be able to take you through your starting grid here for the opening round and the opening sprint race of the Porsche Esports Supercup. And it is Joshua Rogers on pole position with Sebastian Job second, 0.195 behind. Jared Filsell third, and Mitchell de Jong, we just saw, going up into 5th place, should I say, for de Jong. And well, Filsell, of course, it's an inverted grid here today for us, so the actual grid is going to be Beneke on pole position. You see, it's catching us out. Is this, it's a new format for us here, but Beneke is definitely on pole position. He qualified 8th, but he's on pole position for the race with Freddie Rasmussen 2nd and Enzo Benito 3rd, Jamie Fluke 4th, and Mitchell de Jong 5th. Filsell, Job, Rogers, Bootloop and Williams rounds out the top 10. Bobby Zielinski, of course, NASCAR Peak Anti-Free Series champion, down in 11th place, former champion, should I say, and the rest of your field then on your screen. And well, Connery, looking at this first race, inverted reverse grid for the top 8, but already we've got drivers who have got championship points because the top 5 do score themselves championship points from qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a Maximilian Beneke pole position. Freddie Rasmussen also on that front row with Enzo Benito and Jamie Fluke on the row directly behind. So that will be your grid here for this inaugural race of the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Drivers are taking themselves towards the grid. We are maximum 20 seconds away from getting this $100,000 prize pool series started.
Absolutely. So 40 cars have entered this championship, 39 on the grid for you today, and it's a 15-minute sprint race to start us off here, but the drivers now looking towards that light, waiting for the green light to come on. And the green light is on. Away we go for the opening round of the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Great start from Max Beneke at the front of your field. How will the rest of the field come through turns 1 and 2? They are tricky corners. Everybody's making it through. We have got an instant further back. Alexander Voss is one of those caught up in that one, but we're staying green for the time being as we're going through towards turn number 4 on this track. And Jamie Fluke, look at that, Jamie Fluke down the inside trying to make moves here, and he's up into 3rd place in this race so far, so good start for him. The rest of the field just battling out, getting themselves down to single files. We're heading towards this this tight section. It's a chicane into a hairpin at 7 and 8, and then out around that corner, downhill, steep downhill section that is, into the first of the high-speed chicanes through the back section of the circuit. And Beneke and Rasmussen at the front. Big crash! Big crash! They touch each other. Beneke across the grass, and Rasmussen takes the lead. lead of this one. He won't be happy about that one. He returns to the track, does Beneke, but down in 9th place. So Freddie Rasmussen leads this one for the time being in your Red Bull Racing Esports team. 2nd place now, Jamie Fluke. Beneke is dropping further back here. He's obviously got a slow down penalty to serve here as they go across the line, and all the while is in 9th place, is in 8th place. He's managed to slot himself in now, but Connery, big drama at the opening of this race.
Big drama in the first race of the season. Frederick Rasmussen running directly into the back of Maximilian Beneke, your race leader. Battle for P2 is on right now because Mitchell de Jong has found his way down the inside of Jamie Fluke, and he's able to complete the pass coming through the turn 5 hairpin as well. So de Jong making a very good amount of moves here early on in this race. Started in P5. He's up into 2nd place right now, and his next target's on his list, and it's going to be Freddie Rasmussen.
We've got an accident down at the chicane, and it is one of the Altus Esports cars. Sebastian Dunkel is one of them as well in the Sorg Rennsports car. They've got involved in that instance. That's dropped them down to 32nd here. But a bit of shenanigans going on in this opening lap, and it was the 34 car of Marin Cholak who got in with Sebastian Dunkel there. So not ideal start for them further down. They'll have to try and make a recovery drive, but it's so difficult with the level of competition in this series to actually make a recovery drive in this series.
Yeah, so difficult. You know, when we got this 15-minute race, yes, of course, you know, when you finish towards the end of the first race here, that'll mean you have a terrible starting position as well for the actual 30-minute main race. So you still are up against it if you finish poorly here in these first 15 minutes. Battle for P6 though, and P7. It's Jared Filsell versus Joshua Rogers. It's an Australian affair down into turn 5. Rogers down the inside for VRS Coanda Simsports, and he's able to seal the deal over his compatriot.
Yeah, great late braking maneuver from Rogers to get the position there. A little bit of damage to the front right of his car though, so we're obviously in the start of this race, just a little bit of checkups has just caused a little bit of slight front right damage, but shouldn't affect him too much around this circuit as we carry on around the back end of the field. Just up ahead of Rogers is Sebastian Job and Enzo Benito, 2 young guns fighting it out for 4th place, and well, it's the team of Team Redline versus the new team, Red Bull Racing Esports team. Great to have them along in this championship, and those two nose to tail as they're heading through the final corner here, and it all gets a bit close there.
Very close indeed. Sebastian Job hot on the heels of Enzo Benito on the way down to turn 1, but turn 1 isn't really an overtaking opportunity at this track. You just have to wait and perhaps try your luck elsewhere in the first sector. You can draw it alongside in 2, but you can't easily complete a move there. You just have to set everything up for that turn 5 hairpin, and that might be just what Sebastian Job has decided to do. Angles towards the inside, door not shut there by Enzo Benito, side by side through turn 5, and there's Joshua Rogers in the Coanda car trying to file his way through as well. We'll bring it side by side with Benito just as Benito tries to get one back over Sebastian Job, but Benito will have to let that one go and fight with a Coanda driver instead as Rogers, he spins Benito.
Oh, round goes Benito. Heartbreak for him there. It's dropped him down to 13th in this one. Oh, he'll be not happy about that at all. We'll have a look at the replay then, and it's a question of was there enough room left there. We'll let you make your own minds about it with that one. But really, it's all interesting to see how these cars are so closely matched. And speaking of closely matched, I'm looking forward because Mitchell de Jong is on a charge here in this portion of the race. He was 0.2 of a second faster than your race leader, and in fact set the new fastest lap of the race here, a 23.320. So he is gaining on Frederick Rasmussen.
Gaining bit by bit, just edging his way at that gap. But the thing is, it's a 15-minute race. There isn't a lot of time to work with to try and pull a gap back, but Mitchell de Jong is doing his best right now to reel that Red Bull Racing Esports driver back in of Frederick Rasmussen. And Rasmussen here, I think at this point he probably has calmed himself down after that race draw, after punting Maximilian Benecke through the middle sector. We'll have to see if there's any post-race penalties or protests coming in from that, but for now we'll be just racing as is, as they won't be giving penalties during races.
Just of note, Maximilian Benecke is currently still in 9th place, currently with David Williams, the VRS Simsport driver, right behind him. So the Pure Racing Team driver of Benecke will not be happy at all, dropping down that far, and he's about a second behind Bobby Zelensky. So really, he's got a little bit of work to do with time running out. 8 minutes remaining of this race. It is Frederick Rasmussen who leads this one ahead of Mitchell de Jong in 2nd place. Jamie Fluke, 3rd place for the Apex Racing Team, ahead of Sebastian Job, and a queue of cars behind Job, it's got to be said. And it is Joshua Rogers, Jared Filsell, Jeremy Bootloop, and Bobby Zelensky is trying to get involved in this one as well. And Job, you just feel it's a little bit of a bottleneck here for Rogers, and he's trying to make the move. It's tricky braking down into this hairpin because it's downhill, and there goes Rogers. Job, I don't think he's going to fight too hard about this one, although he gets on the power earlier out to that hairpin. It gives him the inside line. They're almost touching mirror to mirror there into turn 7 and 8, but Job, for the time being, holds on to that position, Connery.
Joshua Rogers only just able to slot himself behind there. That was almost going to be a similar incident to the one involving Enzo Benito just at the start of this race, but he's able to find a piece of track to keep him in contention right now for positions quite far inside of this top 10. It's the battle for P4 that you're seeing up on your screens right now. It's Joshua Rogers. He seems like he has a ton of pace behind the wheel of that Porsche. The thing is, Sebastian Job is basically a rolling roadblock at this point. He's been defending very, very well.
He's been doing a good job about it as well, as it's very difficult to overtake around here, and it is very rewarding if you can make the overtake on the car in front of you. But if that car in front knows how to position their car, then they are able to hold on and hang on to that position. But the favourite place for overtaking is out through turn 4 into turn 5, the hairpin. As I say, so easy to get your braking room because it's downhill braking into the hairpin here, and still they carry on. But we'll look forward at the action in front, because it is Rasmussen and de Jong neck and neck together, 0.3 of a second between them. You can see how close it is on screen, and Jamie Fluke's not that far behind. He's about a second behind de Jong here, so he's hanging on here for the time being. Good points to start off the season as well. It's half points for the first round of the championship, or the first sprint race of the championship, and then the feature race will be the full points. So we'll keep you up to date with everything that's going on here, but look at how close now de Jong is getting there. We've also got Job and Rogers pretty close together as well, just a 1/10 of a second between them. And Rogers is getting a little bit impatient here, or is he just lining them up and thinking 3 corners in advance here?
Just having a little bit of look at the time, Sebastian Job, well, when he comes across the line, we'll have a little bit more of a representative lap time. At least on laps previous to that one, he was actually losing time to the race leaders ahead of him, whereas Joshua Rogers, he set the fastest lap of anyone last time by. Not the fastest lap in the race so far, but the fastest lap of anyone on that lap. But here we go, Joshua Rogers, he has the run out of turn 4. Outside line being chosen now for turn 5, looking for a cutback move off the corner. Joshua Rogers has the momentum on the inside line. We'll be door-to-door battling once again down in towards turn 7. And how far and how firm does Sebastian Job be on the defense here in towards turn 7? He solidifies his position ahead, and Joshua Rogers, he's going to be absolutely fuming right now because he had the chance, he wasn't able to capitalize. That's happened at least 3 times already this race.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, it is tricky to overtake here. Drivers going out onto the grass on the exit of that chicane. Job doing a fantastic job, but one little mistake here in this race and it will cost you dearly here as they go into the penultimate corner once again on the brakes. Turn 14, this 15 turn course, brilliant course on the outskirts of Leeds in Alabama. And around the final corner, across the line once again, nothing between them. There's nothing between your two race leaders as well. We'll keep an eye on that going on, but the queue of traffic behind Sebastian Job is just absolutely incredible to see. And another man that's joined the back of that queue is Bobby Zelensky, but they are dropping Beneke. In fact, Beneke's lost a position.
Race lead.
And your race lead, yes, absolutely. As you pointed out there, they're getting very close there, almost touching through the hairpin there. De Jong now putting the pressure on Freddie Rasmussen as we're heading in towards the final 3 minutes of this race.
Absolutely, side by side for P4 as well. Job and Rogers once again side by side into turn 7, and Rogers forces the issue. Oh, there's contact there with the Red Bull Racing Esports driver of Job, and he struggles to hold it around the outside. He recovers the slide, but that's Rogers through, and now Phil Sell is looking to get a piece of the pie as well. Inside line for turn 11, and they make contact again. Phil Sell, he's able to hold on again as well. Fantastic racing in the bottom end of the top 10.
It's fantastic action. This is what we were promised here in the Porsche Esports Supercup. Close, exciting action, and that's exactly what we're getting. And what we're getting is the best drivers in sim racing all here competing. They want a piece of that prize as we're heading towards. So we'll be starting the penultimate lap here. Yeah, it should be the penultimate lap here at this point, and Frederick Rasmussen coming under intense pressure at the front here, and De Jong could actually make a move into the hairpin as they go down into the hairpin and the outside. Not able to make the move, but De Jong, yeah, look at that cutback now, trying to get the cutback on the leader, and they're side by side heading in towards the chicane at turn number 7. Rasmussen has the advantage, he's got the inside line. De Jong realises that, holds the position, but just remember the results of this race here, Connery, form the grid for the feature race.
Not just a battle for 50 points for winning this sprint race, it's also a battle for pole position in the 30-minute main event as well. That is what's on the line between these two drivers right now. 1 minute and 18 seconds remaining. It will be the last lap when they come across the line this time. So it's going to have to be a last-ditch effort here for Mitchell de Jong if he's going to take the first sprint race win of the season. White flag, last lap, at least in American road racing, and it's a duel between these two.
Yeah, absolutely. Down towards turn 1 then. De Jong, he's in the wheel tracks. He's wanting by on Freddie Rasmussen. Rasmussen taking a slightly different line through turns 2 and 3 there as they go up the hill over the crest at turn 4, heading towards turn 5. This hairpin downhill braking, as we've mentioned. De Jong holding back. He's not making the move, and De Jong not quite getting the opportunity there. He's running out of opportunities here, and do you know what? I think he might even just settle on second place here unless something presents itself. Freddie Rasmussen, for the second half of the lap, can just place his car in the right spot. So that's for the time being. There's 0.3 of a second between them. Across the curbs, flying across the curbs there. They bounce over those curbs in the first chicane. Second chicane, you've got to slow it down a bit more. De Jong taking more curb than Rasmussen through the right-hander. Now the double apex right-hander into the penultimate corner. These two still close together. De Jong not giving up here in the penultimate corner, but he's running out of time here. He needs a better run at the final corner, and he's almost going to get it here. He's going to try and get a slipstream up across the line, but it's going to be Frederick Rasmussen across the line for a race win in the first sprint race of the championship. And looking back, close action all the way through your field, and wow, what a race, what a breathless race it was here in that first race. But congratulations, Frederick Rasmussen, on the opening race victory.
That was incredible. Mitchell de Jong so close, but yet so far. Less than 1 car length separates them at the line. 74 thousandths of a second, 75 thousandths of a second, excuse me, but that's still very marginal indeed. Jamie Fluke comes home on the third step of the podium for the first sprint race of this entire season. And it's worth noting, Paul, that this will be the grid for the 30-minute feature as well.
Yeah, so Frederick Rasmussen, race winner in that first sprint race of the season. Mitchell de Jong second, with Jamie Fluke third. And then Rogers, Job, Bootloop, Phil Sell, Zelensky, Williams and Beneke is your top 10 there. The rest of the field will be coming up on screen. But what a first race, Will.
What an amazing first race in the Porsche Esports Supercup here at Barber Motorsports Park. But we still got a 30-minute race still to go. There's the remainder of the results up on your screen. It's worth noting, Connery, as I've still got you for a moment, only 3 teams represented inside your top 10. So we were talking about the fact that, you know, this is a huge team organisation event as well. Yes, the drivers are running by themselves, but we've got some big major teams here. But only 3 of them have made it into the top 10.
It just goes to show how important the team structure is in these sorts of events. Even though there are no constructors or team points on offer, it's a solo driver event. But the thing is, drivers will band together. They have their sponsorships as well on their cars. And it's the behind-the-scenes work that these teams do on a day-to-day basis that mean their drivers get themselves into consistent top 10s.
Yeah, just to let you know, that was not David Croft who is commentating. That was Paul Smith. Paul, what a first race we've had. I mean, I think a lot of these drivers, they were nervous. We saw the nervousness, I think, in the first 4 or 5 laps of this race. A lot of mistakes by drivers, a lot of incidents. Of course, the biggest one has got to be the one involving Max Beneke.
Yeah, that's it. That opening incident there at the start of the race, getting into the back of Beneke was Freddie Rasmussen, causing him to cut across the grass. I don't think Freddie Rasmussen would have wanted to have taken the lead in that manner, or I believe he wouldn't want to do that in that manner. And quite rightly, Beneke will be frustrated with that, but there is still time for redemption. There's still the main feature race coming up here, and it's certainly going to be an interesting dynamic. I don't think things will be as hectic, because they have got double the amount of time now in this second race compared to that sprint race. But still, these drivers are going to be pushing all the way. They will want to try and get up as far as possible in these 30 minutes.
Here's a look at your track conditions. Currently 23 degrees Celsius, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. And the track temperature, however, is at 99 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees. Partially cloudy, 48% humidity. Wind speeds are high. Of course, the thing about this series compared to the Grand Prix World Championship series from last year, Paul, the wind speeds don't make as much of a difference, because these cars, yes, they have got spoilers, but they're not as aero-dependent.
That is correct, yeah. They will be affected a little bit, but it's not as great effect as you mentioned. The main grip that you get from these cars is all in the mechanical grips, in the suspension, in the tyres, in the how you've set up your car for this event. So I think what you're seeing here, with you mentioning about just a couple of teams being up in that top 10 in that last race, I think it just goes to show what people have done in terms of setup to get ready for this event, and who's managed to just dial that little bit more out of the car.
There's one more thing that is important. The winner of this race takes home $1,000, and this is something for both the Porsche Esports Supercup but also the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing, in that the winner will get a cash prize for every single race. There's $500 for second place, $250 for third as well, so that is going to be important. But we are just about 3 minutes away now from ourselves getting ready to go green for race number 2. Paul Connery, back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So as we mentioned in that the results of that first race, those results from that first sprint race form the grid for the second race. So these drivers will be lining up as they finished, and that means that Freddie Rasmussen and Mitchell de Jong are sharing a front row here at Connery. That's going to be an interesting dynamic for 30 minutes.
Yeah, just a bit. Just a bit there. That's going to be fantastic stuff indeed. But as we saw during that sprint race, you can't really make up those positions early on in the first sector, on the first lap of the race. And when it comes to turn 5, well, that's where all hell is going to break loose, I suspect, coming into the what is going to be the main race here. Checkered flag out on the little warm-up that we have here in between Heat 1 and, of course, the main race, so we can get ourselves gridded up in just a couple of moments' time.
Yeah, and this time I won't get caught out by the grid changing. So it is Fredrik Rasmussen who is on pole position for this race, with second place going to Mitchell de Jong. Jamie Fluke, third place of the grid with Joshua Rogers, fourth. Fifth for Sebastian Job and Jeremy Bootloop on the third row of the grid as well. Jared Filsell and Bobby Zelensky then the next two. David Williams and Max Benecke, the man who started on pole in that first sprint race, down in 10th place. Let's see what he can do in this one. The rest of the field then, we've got people like Tommy Ostgaard down in 11th. Enzo Benito, of course, we saw getting spun out at the chicane. He's down in 13th, so he's going to be on a bit of a charge. And how's this? Martin Kroenke, 16th place. We're not used to seeing that name down there, but we're just a few seconds away from the start of this feature race. 30-minute feature race here for you now in the Porsche Esports Supercup. Drivers once again looking up at the lights, waiting for the green. Waiting patiently, you hear the engines revving, and I think there's a jump start further back for one of your drivers, but it's a good getaway from Fredrik Rasmussen into an early lead into turn number 1. Once again, we'll be just checking out, see what happens if there's any more incident like we had in race 1. We've got a car running wide, but other than that, not too much happening near the back. Now, it's going in towards the hairpin for the first time. Cold tyres, cold brakes, hard onto those brakes then, and we've got the 92 of Joshua Rogers. Late move on Jamie Fluke there into that hairpin, and through he goes up into third place for the time being. He's looking forward though. He's wanted to get up even further. We've seen how quick Josh is in this car, and he's making a charge early on. But of course, with this being a 30-minute feature race here, tyre management will become a factor here in this race, because the track temperature, it is rather warm. It's in the 30s, high 30s centigrade for you here in this one. But as we're heading towards the end of the first lap, Fredrik Rasmussen 0.3 of a second ahead of Mitchell de Jong and Mitchell's teammate Joshua Rogers. The question is here, Connery, are there any team orders?
Yeah, that is the big question. When you're a team such as Co-Anderson Sports, who have so many... Oh, we've just, right at the back of the shot, we've just seen someone go way wide. That's the 107 of Tuomas Tattila there in the 107. He went to the pit lane.
He was the man I saw making a jump start. There's two others as well onto pit road. Kevin Ellis Jr. and Jack Sedgwick as well. So we're all getting caught out at the start of this race. So easy to make a mistake and to jump the start in these cars. But here's de Jong now, having to go and take a little bit of a defensive line coming in towards the hairpin then. But now holding his line, heading out the corner. As we mentioned there, so we'll get back to the point. Tyre management is a thing, but also I don't imagine there'll be team orders at VRS Simsport.
Well, maybe not. You know, when there's this much money on the line, then maybe things just change from rounds in previous World Championships. But we'll see how things work here between Mitchell de Jong and Joshua Rogers. Do Co-Ander let them fight, or do they feel that Rogers is faster and able to chase down your race leader of Fredrik Rasmussen? That is the current situation there inside of your top 3. The mid-pack is still pretty stacked up as well. There's Enzo Benito riding on board with the Team Redline driver, as he has not one but 3 VRS Co-Anderson Sport cars ahead of him. Apex Racing Team and Red Bull Racing Esports involved in that one as well. So it's, you know, it's what we're used to seeing in these Porsches. Everyone staying together, stacked up in one big pack, and it plays host to some fantastic racing as well.
There was a big twitch from Tommy Osgaard in front of Enzo Benito, caught with grass on the exit of the final corner here as they're going round. Mitchell de Jong having to get defensive again, but he's holding on to his position, so we'll keep further back. Lauren Heinrich, he's going on a bit of a charge. You think he was one of the drivers who struggled to get a lap time set in qualifying. He's up in 16th place at the moment, and he's battling Martin Kroenke right in front of him as a Red Bull car running wide. That's Graham Carroll having issues coming out the hairpin, and Kroenke makes it through on Graham.
Yeah, he does. Graham Carroll having some problems there through turn 5. I think he just simply outbroke himself, couldn't make the correct speed for the apex, pushes wide on exit, and that allows Kroenke to slot himself ahead. And now Graham Carroll's going to come under threat here from Lauren Henrich with that bright green Porsche right there. It is a Williams Esports car, we promise. At least the back of that car is more in with the design theme of Williams, but it's kind of a unique way of kind of separating out the drivers. I wish VRS kind of SimSport did that so they don't look almost identical. I know they have the white themed car and the black themed car for the Coanda guys, but you know, something a little bit more obvious would be helpful, like Williams Esports.
Well, look who's behind as well. Team Redline driver Gregor Hutto, and he's in 17th place. So some of the names that we've seen at the front of the former World Championship Grand Prix series, they are just in the mid-pack here early on. But this is where, in a race like this, racecraft and being able to take the most of the opportunities that have come to you, that's where that experience does come to the fore. It doesn't matter whether it's a winged car or a car like this, the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. Experience, you can't buy that.
Definitely can't buy it. Top 3 all still stacked together, still 2 Coanda, 1 Red Bull, and the Red Bull leads the pack around for now. Jamie Fluklo for Apex Racing Team, he's coming under pressure from Fredrik Rasmussen's teammate here of Sebastian Job. 0.3 of a second separate them as they head their way down the back straight here. Remember, coming down into this exact corner is where we saw that first lap drama between Rasmussen and Beneke, which will be investigated after the race, I suspect, since no in-race penalties are given out. Sebastian Job, he's got a bit of work to do if he wants to catch this top 3, and he has to do that while he's being chased by Jeremy Bootloop, Zelensky, Jared Filsell right behind him as well.
Yeah, so a queue of cars there behind Fluke, and Jamie, he is a good tin top driver. He's also a very good Formula driver as well, but Fluke trying to withhold the pressure from behind for the time being. And as this race goes on as well, what you'll find is that there will be marbles accumulate offline, so those drivers will have to be careful when they make moves, because if they make a move and they hit a patch of dirt and of marbles on the track, they will not make those corners and make those moves for the time being. 3 race leaders are making a little bit of a breakaway from Jamie Fluke, just 1.1 seconds between them. But as we look back here, Jared Filsell and Bobby Zelensky, it's Apex Racing Team versus VRS Sport car.
Yep, the Coanda car. Well, I gotta stop myself from saying the Coanda car now, because there's about 15 of them on the racetrack, so it's quite hard for people to tell which one exactly I'm talking about. We've had Peter Berryman come down on towards pit lane, and of course there's no scheduled stops in this entire event. It's simply not long enough to be able to do that, but this hasn't really been the best of races, best of entire race days for Peter Berryman. He's going to finish quite near the back of the field here with that stop that no one else has to do.
Fritz Lerner is down in the field for Williams Esports, and he's battling with Marti Piatella as we're going into turn number 1. And these drivers, again, you're getting battles all the way through your field here. It's very easy in an event like this to get hung up and focus on your race leading battle, which is pretty close, but still there's all these battles through the field, and this is what this Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car produces, Connery, because these drivers can run pretty close together.
On board with Lauren Henrich right now, Graham Carroll right on the front of his nose, all the way down to the turn 7 chicane here. little bit of confusion behind as those two cars were going slow. Actually, side by side behind between Hutu and Niels Koch here, coming down the back straight. Just behind Lauren Henrich, and Koch is around. If we can get that one back, there's the aftermath with the red line driver of Hutu spinning as well. Contact between the two up in towards turn 12 there, Paul.
Yeah, that's we'll see it on the replay here, but Hutu, he is fallen all the way back here. And as we look at that replay, you see just how those two going in side by side into the chicane, and they're getting together. Around they go, and disaster really for Team Redline in that one. We'll go back live though on your pictures. You can see that queue formed behind Jamie Fluke here. In fact, Fluke's just pulled away slightly from Sebastian Job here, and it's Job who's coming under pressure from Jeremy Butler as Bobby Zelensky is round.
Yeah, Zelensky around at turn 5. He'll be cycled towards the back of the field, has to rejoin safely, of course. Was it a forced error or was it unforced? He was so squirrely on the brakes in towards turn 5. No contact with any other drivers. In fact, the only contact is completely unrelated to him. Patrick Holtzman gets spun in turn 5 as well, as one of the Apex Racing Team drivers of Antoine Higlan gets into the back of him just as the commander car was stuck on the outside of the corner of Zelensky.
Yeah, so getting caught up and reacting, unfortunately, to incidents like that. And around they go to those drivers further down. So Martin Kroenke is on pit road. So him and also Castrolado is on pit road as well. So it's not been a good day for those two. But look at your race leaders. They're still half a second covering the three of them. You could cover them with a towel. They're that close together as they go through turns 2 and 3, heading towards the hairpin at turn number 5. And this, Connery, this is a battle of wit and a battle of intelligence and a battle of who's got the greatest racing mind here, because at the moment they're all just feeling each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. If this was still a sprint race, then we'll be seeing moves being attempted left, right and centre, shall we say. But since this race is a little bit longer, it's a little bit more of a race of attrition. And Mitchell de Jong very well aware of that fact. He hasn't sensed a move over Freddie Rasmussen over the last couple of laps. And Joshua Rogers behind as a teammate just stays in position as well. And that's a pretty good position for Mitchell de Jong to be in right now. He can just focus on the car ahead of him because his teammate behind doesn't look to be making any moves anytime soon.
As you can see, the biggest movers in your field on the left-hand side of your screen there on that graphic. So these drivers, there's been changes. We've got 3 retirements at the moment, so 37 cars still showing as scoring, well 36 cars, sorry, still showing as scoring. However, 3 of those cars are also on pit road as well, so just 33 cars out on track at the moment. But we'll look at this, your race lead battle, Frederick Rasmussen, Mitchell de Jong, and there comes a time, Connery, where you can spend too much time behind the guy in front. You start braking at the same points of them, use the same lines, and before you know it, you're just following them like you're on a set of tracks.
Yeah, that's sometimes the behaviour that you start to fall into if you're just hanging onto the rear bumper of the car ahead, and Mitchell de Jong definitely has to be careful about that. You can just see he's losing marginally over the last 2 laps, but that is not really significant in the grand scheme of things. Still very much in the slipstream, still very much in range if he wants to sling one down the inside. Freddie Rasmussen, though, with a good first sector there, able to pull out the gap just marginally again over Mitchell de Jong, but I don't think he's going to be able to break away at the front of the field here like he does on so many occasions in so many other races.
Lauren Heinrich putting pressure on Graham Carroll in front. This is for 12th and 13th, about 0.3 of a second between the two of them as they're headed in towards the end of the lap here. Williams Esport versus Red Bull Racing Esports team, and those two are duking it out on track. Very differently coloured cars, it must be said. It's nice and distinctive for Lauren Heinrich. But those two at the moment, they're sticking together out on track. But looking even further back now, it's David Nowakowski and Moritz Lerner They're 16th and 17th place, half a second covering them.
P2.
But those two, second place, Joshua Rogers making a move down the inside of his teammate. Do you think that there's a word being had between the two of them, and Joshua saying, look, give me a go at them now. Let me have a go at your race leader.
Yeah, let's have another look. Mitchell was wide out of turn 6, which is why he didn't have a lot of speed down into turn 5. Rogers inside line, an acre and a half of space given by Mitchell de Jong. So I wouldn't say that's an orchestrated move, because Mitchell was very slow coming out of the first sector, but it wasn't a defended move, I will say, in that situation. Just allowing Rogers to have the space on the inside, get his way through, and he also, by proxy, Joshua Rogers now can have a go at your race leader.
Well, this is it. It's almost a good idea to do that if you've spent too much time behind the car in front. Say, right, let's swap positions. We're in that got that capability at the moment with them two being teammates, and say, right, let me have a go at him. And Joshua Rogers, he is a hard charger. He's somebody that will really push on through, and we're almost at the halfway point in this race here, and it's interesting to note that Jamie Fluke, with all that's been going on, did actually gain a little bit on those three at the front. So Jamie Fluke's dragging a train of cars of Sebastian Job, Jeremy Bootloop along with him.
Well, here we go.
As here we go, race lead down the inside, Joshua Rogers. He's not wasting any time. It was arrive and drive, but still side by side out to the hairpin. What can they do? They're almost touching doors once again. Fredrik Rasmussen holding that inside line. That's the advantage of holding that outside line into this one. Oh, very close on the brake, and they're slowing each other up, and this is bringing more and more cars into this battle. But Connery, Josh, he didn't want to waste time. He wanted to get there and make the move.
That's just the difference in driving styles between Joshua Rogers and Mitchell de Jong. Mitchell a little bit more conservative despite coming from a real-world rallycross background. Rogers aggressive as ever, wanting to stamp his authority on this race, and that's just a statement now to Fredrik Rasmussen. If you're leaving the door open like that into turn 5, don't be surprised if you find me on the curb as well.
You can see the top 8 on your screen there. We see the top 3 right in picture there. Jamie Fluke's right behind then, with Sebastian Judd, Jeremy Bootloop, Jared Filsell and Tommy Ostgaard rounding out the top 8 of this field. We'll look on board though with Sebastian Job. He's right behind Jamie Fluke, and those two, they're well known to each other. They've raced in various series, including World Championship Grand Prix series against each other. Race lead though, down the inside into the hairpin once again. Joshua Rogers, he's trying to make this move and trying to make it stick. He's squeezing Fredrik Rasmussen to the outside of the corner, and once again over the bumps they almost touch doors, but again Fredrik Rasmussen holding the line. This time Rogers round the outside. Brilliant move into the chicane and hairpin. Can he hold on to it though? He's squirrely on the way out the corner. Here comes Rasmussen back at it now into the first chicane. It's a single line through here, and Jamie Fluke has moved up into 3rd place behind them as well. Multiple position changes here in this half of the lap here, Connery.
Brilliant racing. We'll get another look at it side by side between your race leaders down into turn what's going to be 10 wow, that's turn 7 there. Absolutely fantastic, and Jamie Fluke managing to file his way through there as well. Just in the aftermath, as everyone stacked up there coming through the chicane, the Apex Racing Team driver of Fluke just picking his way through expertly, and now he's in a podium finishing position and a prize winning position as well.
What can Joshua Rogers do now? Can he pull away from Fredrik Rasmussen? Was Fredrik Rasmussen actually looking after his tyres a little bit to save it for the second half of the race? That's going to be an intriguing thing to look at throughout this race. Meanwhile, Mitchell de Jong is going down the inside of Jamie Fluke. He wants that podium position back here. He also wants the money that goes with that podium position, and down the inside, but Fluke again is going to try and hold on for that 3rd place. On the brakes for Apex Racing Team into the chicane. They bang doors into the hairpin now, and Fluke and de Jong still side by side, but de Jong has got that 3rd place there.
Yeah, you're playing with fire with a slowdown penalty coming through that section. If you take the curve a bit too much, the automated iRacing system will punish you with a slowdown penalty. You'll have to give up time over the rest of the lap to try to serve that one, and that might have just been what happened with the incident with Mitchell de Jong that put him behind Jamie Fluke. But the thing is, he's managed to get himself back through, and he's able to continue on the charge for those top 2 positions like he was involved in just a couple of laps ago. Phil Sell looking to make some progress as well behind the wheel of his Apex Racing Team car. It's Jeremy Bootloop right on the front of his nose right now, coming up through the first sector, and a good train of cars for the pickings as well.
Joshua Rogers is stamping his authority on the race lead. New fastest lap for him, 23.090. He's on the move out front now. He's been released, and well, we'll focus on this one. Phil Sell, looking to the inside there though is Bootloop on Sebastian Job. So multiple cars going for position here, and they're going to go side by side now in towards turn number 7. The chicane, no, they're going to go back in single file. Not feeling quite as brave at this point, but 11 minutes of this race remaining here already. It's flown by as this action, and what action we have seen here in this opening week of the Porsche Esports Supercup. Brought to you here on the Iris Esports Network, on YouTube, Facebook and Twitch. Don't forget to keep up to date with everything that's going on in the series, because there will be plenty of talking points as we go throughout the season. But these drivers, they are really putting on a display of high intensity action. I'll get the words out eventually, Conor.
Yeah, as long as you don't mix corner numbers up like I did just a couple of moments ago, that would be absolutely fantastic indeed. But we're getting towards 10 minutes left in this first main event of the season. Rogers still leads from Rasmussen, and Rogers pulls out the gap as well up towards a second. We're currently looking at one of the battles further back in your mid. I believe we're on board right now with the driver of Tommy Østgaard there for Coanda Simsports. So the Norwegian trying to make some further progress in this race. He started in P11, he's up to P8 right now, and he has cars ahead that will definitely, he'll definitely challenge by the time the end of this race arrives. But the case is, does he have the pace or not? If you looked at a lap time graphic briefly in the bottom right just as we took it away, you'd say yes, because they're all very much green, and that's what drivers like to see. They're catching.
Yeah, absolutely. Half a second in the last 3 laps. Tommy has caught up to Jared Phil Sell. We also look at Sebastian Job and Jeremy Bootloop. That's 5th and 6th place. And you can see how Bootloop little gains here and there, although on lap 13 gains 0.2 of a second. So these guys, they're all getting close together. And I would imagine when we hit the 5-minute mark remaining in this race, that is when the blue touch paper will be lit, and everyone will just want to stand back and watch how it all turns out. But as we head on in to the final 9 minutes of the race, Joshua Rogers has pulled out yet another fastest lap out at the front. He's pulled out a 1.4 second lead over Frederick Rasmussen. That is absolutely incredible. In the last 2-3 laps, he's been able to pull out such a gap in such a closely contested field here, Connery.
It's absolutely brilliant to see. When Joshua Rogers is in his prime and in his moment, he is seemingly unstoppable. Frederick Rasmussen dropping back 0.2 of a second a lap, and even 4.5 of a second on that previous one. Rogers is just saying goodbye and good night. I am gone. Freddie Rasmussen perhaps might just be dropping back into the clutches of Mitchell de Jong here, because de Jong has closed up 0.2 of a second to second place here. So Frederick Rasmussen, the positions being lost, might not end here.
Well, that's it. We'll have to wait and see what happens here, because de Jong, he's on a charge now. He's trying to gain that time back. He wants to make it a VRS Coanda Simsport 1-2 for them here today in this opening event. But still under 8 minutes remaining in this one. Plenty can happen in this one as we go along. I'm determined not to say anything and give anyone a commentator's curse, because I would hate that to happen when there's so much at stake here. Even the littlest mistake will cost you dearly, as we've seen already in this event.
Yeah, absolutely, and you don't have a lot of time. Even though this quote-unquote main race is, you know, I guess the most obvious statement I'll make all day is not a sprint race, but it's still 30 minutes, which, you know, if you count endurance racing into that metric, then it is still very much a sprint race, even though it's the main event. But so when you have these sorts of early issues, it's going to take a huge, monumental effort to try and get yourself back into a very good point-scoring position. We're currently riding on board with Lauren Henrich, though, for Williams Esports, chasing down Graham Carroll for Red Bull Racing Esports for P12. Henrich, he's just been stuck in this position over the past couple of laps, hasn't been able to find a way by Graham Carroll just yet, but he gets a very good run out of the chicane and coming up towards the back straight. Now look at how close he's getting to the rear bumper of the Red Bull Porsche ahead of him, but Henrich still can't find a way through. He looks like he has the pace, but he doesn't have the space.
Those two started 17th and 18th in this race and up to 12th and 13th in this one, and they're still battling it out. You can't separate them. Looking further back as well, Maximilian Benecke, 26th position. He is not been a good opening around here for Max. He started this race in 10th place. That's down 16 positions. That's absolutely crazy when you consider the level that he competes at in our GT series, the World Championship Series for GTs.
Yeah, it's incredible, absolutely, and well, he's gonna have to try to forget about this race. It is a 10 race weeks, I guess. I was gonna say race weekend, but everything happens in a day, so 10 race day season here. So he does have a bit of time to recover from this one, but as far as I'm aware, no drop weeks in this series, so those points will count to his final tally, and that might be a talking point if he's able to put in a good result over the next couple of races, if this race will actually hurt him when it comes to a championship battle coming towards the end of the season, if he's involved.
Well, looking ahead now, second and third place, Mitchell de Jong has been closing that gap at the front. So Fredrik Rasmussen now just 0.3 of a second ahead of Mitchell de Jong as they come out the final corner once again. We're into the final 5 minutes, and this is where I said that things will start heating up. Business is about to pick up in this race, and it could well be for the second step of the podium. These two, though, they're no strangers to battling each other. They were stuck together for over half of the race here in this one, but still, as they go out through turn 4 over that crest, it's really difficult. The car goes light and it wants to push out wide, and then hard onto the brakes in turn 5, the hairpin here. But then look back, look at the queue of cars that are behind Jamie Fluke, the Apex Racing Team cars. Sebastian Job, Jeremy Butlup, Jared Filsell, Tommy Ostgaard, and Enzo Benito has called up to the back of that pack as well. And he's somebody who we can maybe really keep an eye on, because remember, he did qualify very well for that first sprint race.
He did, very much so, but he's, well, just inside the top 10 here in this main event. And Enzo Benito, definitely a force to be reckoned with in the sim racing world. Doesn't matter if it's iRacing or anything else, he is going to be on the top of his game. And a top 10 finish in this first event will be absolutely brilliant for him indeed. Coming into the final couple of minutes then, Joshua Rodders just has checked out at the front of the race. 2.5 seconds is the gap between your race leader and second place right now. Joshua Rodders, he's in no man's land. He's all on his own. He can just hot lap until the end.
Well, he might want to just rein it back just that slight bit. You don't want to... it's going to sound strange, but you don't want to calm down and pull back too much, because then you'll start making mistakes. It sounds counterproductive, but it is true. That does happen. Battle for second is ongoing here. De Jong down the inside of Rasmussen. They almost go into the side of each other. Rasmussen having to give space, but he gets on the power earlier out of the hairpin. And what we're going to see, de Jong is crowding Rasmussen there. A little rub. Rasmussen's not having it as they go into the chicane here. And now the hairpin. Rasmussen's almost around. He's contact. Big incident there. He's got damage to the car, but most importantly, he's down outside the top 10 here, down to 13th. And I think, in fact, he might be out of the race.
Yeah, he's out. He's taken the tow back to pit lane. Freddie Rasmussen finish at the very, very tail end of the field. Only 1 point on offer for him in this main race. We'll see it once again coming down into the chicane. And, well, it was side by side all the way through. And it's a section where side by side is very difficult indeed. Fredrik Rasmussen, though, I think he crowded out Mitchell a little bit too much there, coming through the second apex, not leaving him a lot of room to work with. Mitchell had to put 2 tires on the grass, and that just escalated things from that point forwards.
Well, what that does mean is that Jamie Fluke is up into 3rd place. He's got a potential podium position here, but with under 2 minutes remaining in this one, Sebastian Job now is putting him under all sorts of pressure, and in fact he's going for it. Look at the damage on the front of Jamie Fluke's car. He's hindered here in this battle, and Job, he can just drive around the outside of Jamie here, and he's going to take 3rd place in this one. So we're nearly at the end of this race. What an action-packed race it has been in your feature race for the first round of the Porsche Esports Supercup, and Sebastian Job for Red Bull Racing Esports team up into 3rd place there. But Jamie now under pressure here, Connery, from Jeremy Bootloop.
It will be the last lap the next time these guys hit the start-finish line, and it's going to be a frantic battle for the final step on the podium here. Sebastian Job is trying his best to make sure that podium seems a little bit more secure as he tries to break away, uses Jamie Fluke as basically a roadblock behind him, because Jamie Fluke is damaged and will be down, especially in a straight line with that front end damage. It's not a very aerodynamic surface to be presenting to the air coming down these straights. White flag going to be in the air. This is the final lap here. Joshua Roder's so comfortable at the front, but it's still undecided here for P4 and back.
We've had drama further back as well. Jeremy Carroll has been around and he's dropped down to 19th place. So the last lap is producing drama all through this race here. We'll get a replay of it. He was battling with Lauren Heinrich, and it was going into the penultimate corner. Heinrich goes for the move, and just the slightest touch there. We'll go back to live action now here in this one, because it is Phil Sell and Fluke and Bootloop all together here for this final lap here around turn 7 into 8, the hairpin. And Fluke, all he has to do is position his car right, and he has got the position for the time being, because, well, out front it is Joshua Rogers coming in to the penultimate corner here in this race. And what a race it was for him. He started this one in 4th place. He was able to get up behind his teammate early on, waited for his opportunity, got ahead of his teammate, and early on made the move for the lead. And it's going to be a race victory in the opening feature race here in the Porsche Esports Supercup for Joshua Rogers. Mitchell de Jong is going to make it a VRS Coanda SimSport 1-2, with Sebastian Job rounding out your podium. They're the big money makers in this opening round of the championship. We've got close action side by side across the line between Antoine Higelin and Tommy Osgaard, and it's Higelin who just holds on to that one. What brilliant action we have seen in this opening week of this championship. And Connery, thoughts on that one? That was that had everything.
That had absolutely everything. It's basically a mix of your standard GT racing and touring car racing, it seems like, with how much bumper-to-bumper action and door-to-door moments that we saw throughout both races here today. Just so happens Joshua Rogers comes out on top for Coanda SimSports, a very comfortable gap at the front of the field as well. And oh, what could have been for Fredrik Rasmussen. He ends up classified P33.
Well, let's take you through your final feature race results then here in the Porsche Esports Super Cup opening round. It is Joshua Rogers winning this one by 5.1 seconds ahead of his teammate Mitchell de Jong in 2nd place. Sebastian Job rounding out that podium for the Red Bull Racing Esports team. Jamie Fluke managed to hang on to 4th place ahead of Jeremy Bootloop, who's 5th. Jared Vilsell was putting the pressure on in 6th place as well, with David Williams a distant way away from them in 7th place. Antoine Higelin just holding on ahead of Tommy Osgaard for 8th and 9th. And Enzo Benito rounding out this one in 10th place. rest of your finishers on screen. People like Lauren Heinrich, great run from him to finish in 11th place. And a few big names making mistakes. Bobby Zelensky, one of those drivers, and Graham Carroll getting caught up with Lauren Heinrich at the end of the penultimate lap. But, well, it's been a thoroughly enjoyable first round to this championship, and I can't wait to hear what the drivers think of that, Will.
That was incredible. The first round of the Porsche Esports Supercup is in the books. Joshua Rogers is $1,000 richer as a consequence of him taking victory here today. Kawanda 1-2 at the end. The last results then up on your screen, but we have seen and we have witnessed a fantastic first round of the championship here at Barber Motorsports Park. We're going to step aside for a few moments here, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Post-race coming up after this.
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Ray Alfala into the outside wall.
Barber is going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing!
Race lead to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save!
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
I trying this contact though.
Slide left to the racetrack. Chris Renner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schubert, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
If you like what you saw today in the first round of the Porsche Esports Supercup, don't forget to check out the iRacing Esports Network on YouTube, youtube.com/iRacing iRacing Esports Network. As we welcome you back then to post-race coverage here from Barber Motorsports Park, and what a first round we have had of the championship. Two different winners. Frederick Rasmussen won out in the first part of our race. That was a 15-minute sprint, but it was Jared Filsell who, not Jared Filsell, I say that back completely. It was Coanda Simsports and Joshua Rogers even who came home with the victory in our feature race, and as a consequence of that, Joshua Rogers is now $1,000 richer. I'll tell you one thing, actually, that's not a bad afternoon's work to make $1,000, Paul.
It's all right, and he had to work for it, though. That's for sure. It was a challenge for him. He didn't have it easy all his way, but once he got out front, he was able to pull away. That was fantastic. Yeah, the winner of the feature race getting that $1,000 is well worthwhile.
Yeah, and what we did see, actually, you're right, at the exact point that Joshua Rogers got himself to the race lead, he pulled away so much there, Paul. And it just seemed to be that actually he made the right move by going past Mitchell de Jong about mid-race.
Yeah, that's it. It looked like it was at the point where he was able to just take advantage of. He bided his time behind his teammate, got ahead of Mitchell, and then was able to make the move quickly and decisively. That was the key thing. He couldn't afford to have got stuck behind Freddie Rasmussen, and that's exactly what happened. He got past him and got the move done.
Yeah, let's have a chat to a couple of drivers. Let's start off by talking to the driver of the number 49 Apex Racing Team driver. That is Jamie Fluke. And well, Jamie, first off, what a whirlwind coming about as we just had.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Yeah, I don't know what everyone was expecting coming into this, but it was always going to be chaos, extremely close between everyone, so I'm just happy to get two solid results out of it, to be perfectly honest.
You were battling, you saw issues in front of you, there were issues behind you. You had to limit damage to that number 49 Apex Racing Team car. Talk us what happened in the future.
That's a pretty straightforward one. So I think Mitchell got into the back of Fred, and Fred was stopped in the middle of the track. So I go to where there's a gap, and then he decides to move, and yeah, I picked up a lot of front left damage there. So that's what allowed Sebastian to get a run on me the next lap and overtake me, which was a shame, but not much I can do about it now.
You completed your first set of races here in the Porsche Esports Supercup. I mean, last year you were running in cars that had wings and all these other sorts of things. How is it different now that you're running in a Porsche 911 GT car?
Personally, for me, it's a lot better. Takes me back to my natural habitat where I have to fight and wrestle a car a bit rather than relying on downforce. So it's a lot of fun. It allows for a lot of close racing, and especially with the number of cars that we have on the grid. Yeah, it's a big difference, but it's an awful lot of fun as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we're going to put the season graphic up to show you what's going to happen over the course of the next 5 months here on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Well, I mean, it all is going to basically go to Mid-Ohio Sports Car course in a couple of weeks here, April 27th on RaceSpotTV, then to Spa, then Turkey and Villeneuve throughout the month of May. Mid-Ohio Sports Car course is one of these tracks that you either get it or you don't, in my opinion. What's your thoughts heading into the next round of the championship?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. It's very similar, actually, in comparison to Barber, where again it's a track where either you get it or you don't. There's a lot of sweeping corners and elevation changes. I'm expecting pretty much a very similar kind of race and our race meeting as we had today at Mid-Ohio. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed that, then hopefully you'll enjoy Mid-Ohio as well. Well,
Apex Racing Team, who gets it done for you?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone, both the Apex and the Evolution Racing Team side of things. Massive shout out to all the guys who helped with the setup and that, and I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Logitech G, SpeedCafe.com, SDK Gaming, and Computers PC Systems.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie Fluke, number 49 Apex Racing Team. And I will say one thing, Connery. Over the course of today, Jamie Fluke has been busy.
Very, very busy indeed, and this race definitely no exception at all, finishing P4 in the feature race, P3 in the sprint race. I'd say that's a good day at the office.
Yeah, it is indeed. We've got more drivers, though, that we are going to talk to. Let's have a chat with your race winner of the feature race, Josh Rogers. Congratulations, you're now not only $1,000 richer, but you won the first ever feature race in the Porsche Esports Supercup.
Yeah, thanks guys. Well, what a race. I guess, yeah, that feature was a bit more of a race of attrition compared to the sprint race, but yeah, look, all in all, can't be any happier with how it ended up, and you know, huge thanks to Porsche for putting this on, as well as iRacing and the team for all the brilliant work this week.
Well, you've had yourself a pretty good day, of course, here at Barber. Koanda Simsports represented well, 5 drivers inside of the top 10, if memory serves me correctly. But the key part of the race, in our opinion, was when you got yourself past your teammate, Victor de Jong. Was there any team orders there? Was there any communication between the two of you?
No, there wasn't. For me, I figured it was better off just to sit behind for a little bit, see if we could pull away from Jamie and Co behind. And it kind of got to the point where Mitchell was just making a couple of mistakes, and I saw the opportunity arise, and also the clouds came over as well. I felt quite comfortable in the cooler conditions, so I knew at that point it was time for me to make a move. And then that's why the following lap you saw me try and pass Fred as well. Just felt really, really confident in those cooler conditions, so I felt like I had to take advantage of it while I could.
There's been a bit of wheel banging here today in the Porsche Esports Supercup. I mean, how does it feel, the comparison between this and what you were racing last year in the World Championship Series, and also in terms of the racing compared to other World Championship Series that you take part in?
Well, I guess compared to F1, obviously it's completely opposite. Going from a series where, you know, there can't be any touching, to a series where, you know, we've got a sprint race format, and you know, 40 cars on a track as tight as this as well, is a brilliant example of how tight the racing can be and has to be. So yeah, obviously significantly different, I guess, from the GT racing side of things. You know, we're comparing 30-minute, 15-minute races to kind of 6 hours or 3 hours, so there's definitely a different mindset and a different mental approach for those kind of things, but yeah, definitely polar opposites from last year, that's for sure.
Next time out, we're going to head ourselves over to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. I said to Jamie Fluke a moment ago, it's a bit of a Marmite track. You either get it or you don't. What's your thoughts about Mid-Ohio?
Well, I haven't personally driven this car around there yet. But obviously, Suzuka is going to be a priority for next weekend. But I think, you know, Barber does take some, Mid-Ohio, sorry, takes some similarities from Barber. So I think, you know, with those high-speed chicane sections, there's a couple of, you know, really high-speed corners at Mid-Ohio. So I think we should feel okay, but at the end of the day, you know, there is still some quite different aspects of that track, and the way we're going to have to race there is going to be quite different as well, with the long straights to make passing a little bit easier. So yeah, we'll see how we go, but yeah, next week is certainly the priority.
It's a 1-2 for Koanda Simsports. Who gets it done for you?
Honestly, just a massive thanks to everyone for all the effort they've put in this week and weeks prior. You know, these results can't be done without the team behind us, and you know, they've put in the work, and hopefully, you know, this can continue. But yeah, obviously, massive thanks to our partners, Virtual Racing School, VTech, SimQuip, Handwear Design for our liveries this week, or this year. Obviously, I think our cars look quite nice on track, and also you guys for the broadcast as well, and Porsche for assisting to put this on.
Well, thank you very much, Josh Rogers. $1,000 richer, taking home victory in the feature race here today. Let's next talk to the driver of Mitchell de Jong, who came home second place. And Mitchell, my word, you've been battling over the course for this weekend.
Wow, what an event. Like, seriously, so much stuff happened. You know, qualifying was, you know, not great. And looking at it in hindsight, my first lap would have put me in a really good spot for that sprint race. But I saw it too late, improved slightly, and jumped to, what, third or something? And that just goes to show, like, how close the gaps are in this. The level of competition is so ridiculous. Yeah, just tried to be patient through the sprint race, made some moves, went pretty cleanly. So big shout out to the other guys for being able to race hard and clean at the same time. You know, these cars have quite a lot of movement around the track, so it's quite a handful driving by yourself, especially on cold tires and things like that. And you know, it's still some pretty great racing. Afterwards, yeah, just tried to be patient behind Freddie in the sprint race. Tried to make some moves in case he made a mistake, but didn't want to sacrifice myself and start in the back if an incident happened. And yeah, try to put myself in a good position and set myself up for a good race in the main.
You talk about qualifying, you talk about the battle that you have to have internally in terms of your qualifying position. Do you focus on the qualifying lap? Do you focus on everyone around you? What is the mindset as you go into the qualifying, knowing that the top 8 are inverted, but there's also a point the top 5 in qualifying?
You know, it's a really interesting, I guess, discussing point with that. You know, there are bonus points for qualifying well, but in reality, they're not that much compared to what you'd get if you started really well in the sprint race and finished a lot higher. So, to be honest, if you're running pretty well in quali, in terms of your pace, I would say you don't have too much pressure to put on yourself to get a perfect lap like you would in other series, because of the invert. For me, I definitely won't play any games with, you know, trying to time it right and get 8th to get the invert. I think that's too difficult to get right for me, and I wouldn't ever want to really think about that during my lap. I think it would cause more issues for myself, and for me, I don't ever like to play those games. I don't think I find that they always bite you in the back at the end. So for me, I just try to put in a solid lap and then see where we end up.
Well, next track up is Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course from California. It's about the same distance to Alabama as it is to Ohio. But, I mean, you've raced on this track before, I assume. What's your thoughts heading into the Marmite track, as I call it?
It'll be interesting. I think it'll race quite similarly to this one. I've only raced it a few times in some slower cars quite a while ago before running a lot of World Championship stuff. So it'll be interesting to learn. This, like this with Barber, was like my first official race at this track. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's a good track for the car, but I think it's going to be quite similar with you need to be pretty forceful making moves and stuff like that. So we'll see how it races, but I'm sure it'll be a great show like this one was.
Shout out sponsors who gets it on for you.
Yeah, for sure. Have to say a big thanks to all our teammates. You know, we have a pretty big team, but it's pretty cool to have so many people pushing you every single day to get better. I think that's where we really benefit most. You know, with these cars, there's not much you can do with the setup. So pretty much it's getting everything out of yourself. And, you know, you see what Josh can do with it. It's pretty impressive. Big congrats to him for being so quick and dominant. Yeah, just goes to show what a big, good group can do for you. So big thanks to them. All our spotters keeping us in line, and yeah, all our other partners, Virtual Racing School for sure, VTech, SimQuip, and Word Design, and then you guys RaceSpot, and also iRacing and Porsche for giving us this great championship.
Well, thank you so much, Mitchell de Jong there, coming home second place in the feature here today. We've got one more driver to talk to. That is the driver of Sebastian Job. And, well, Sebastian, it's been an interesting race, shall we say, for you today. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I started in, I qualified second for the, which put me in 7th for the first race, and I just tried to make up a couple of places at the start. I think I got 1 on the first lap, so not great, but it's better than nothing. And then it was just kind of waiting for other people to make mistakes, and then there was already only one opportunity to overtake, which was into the hairpin, so you just had to be patient for a bad run out of turn 2. We go ahead, and then it was pretty much the same story in the second race, just being patient, waiting for a mistake, and I think I got a bit lucky with Jamie getting damaged right at the end from Freddie's incident, but I was pretty happy with that to finish third in points after all that, because I don't think we were too confident going into this for pace, so I'm very happy with that.
It's been a kind of up and down day for the Red Bull Racing Esports team. Of course, it's the first time that a lot of people have seen Red Bull Racing Esports. Of course, you're also represented in the VRS GT iRacing World Championship. If you were to, as a team member, sum up your weekend, is it been what you've been looking for?
Definitely not. No, I think the aim should be like all cars in the top 10 or something like that, or even top 8. So we definitely need to do better for the future. But yeah, there's nothing we can do now. We just got to move on to the next race and make sure it doesn't happen again.
We're talking about the next race. The next race, of course, is at Barber Motorsports Park in a couple of weeks. Not Barber Motorsports Park. We are here at Barber Motorsports Park. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car course in a couple of weeks, of course, here on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network. And I've been asking all drivers about their thoughts, because Mid-Ohio, I always say, is one of these tracks that if you get it right, it works. But if you do not get the track and the rhythm of Mid-Ohio, then you're going to struggle. What's your thoughts, Henry?
Yeah, I quite like the track. I have to say, I've not driven it in a long time, but I've got good memories of driving it in like the Skip Barber a few years ago, and I think it's just a track with a really nice flow to it. I can't see there being too many opportunities for overtakes, but I think it should be very fun to practice at least. I think it'll be similar to this, quite fun to practice and then not too easy to overtake in the race, but still 1 or 2 chances.
Well, Red Bull Racing Esports team, who gets it done for you?
Freddie.
There you are, Sebastian Job, ladies and gentlemen, here on RaceSpotTV. And closing thoughts, both Paul and Connor, coming to you first, Conway. We've seen some fantastic racing here. The sprint race was about as frantic as we thought it was going to be. In terms of Mid-Ohio, though, in a couple of weeks' time, it is basically, if you can get the China bends right, you're on for a winner. If you cannot get a rhythm at Mid-Ohio, basically you might as well sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, going to be staying in the US for the next race weekend, and Mid-Ohio, you called it exactly right there. Well, it's a track where you simply just have to get the rhythm right, especially coming through that very technical middle sector. You know, it's going to be offering a lot of side-by-side racing through there as well, but then you have some portions of the track that can really catch you out if you're trying to battle. So it'll be, I think, similar to what we've seen here today, and if it is, well, that's going to be a fantastic race as well.
Yeah, and also, Paul, in terms of Mid-Ohio, it is a very narrow track. 2.25 miles in length, and there are some good overtaking opportunities down into the keyhole, down into the China bends, but there's a long portion of the racetrack where you've got to basically sit there and be patient.
Yeah, I think the favourite points are going to be into the keyhole and into, as you mentioned, the China bends 4, 5 and 6. It then all goes a bit single file. You can maybe try and go side by side going into the carousel, but it's going to take a lot of bravery. But we saw some bravery out there today with Joshua Rogers going around the outside into the hairpin. So don't count these guys out. You know, when there's so much to play for, I wouldn't count them out and pulling out some moves in places we don't expect them.
Indeed, so that is all though we've got time for here for the first round of the Porsche Esports Supercup, a partnership between Porsche and iRacing to make the single make championship that we see. It has been fascinating in round number 1. Who knows what will happen in a couple of weeks' time at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Thank you so much to Paul Smith and Connie Maddock, your commentary team for the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Thank you so much to Marco, who came on and talked to us earlier on, as well as Dom Duhan, team principal for Team Redline. Shout out to Iswan Balau, TrackCams22.com for all of the beautiful graphics overlays that you see, as well as a huge shout out personally to our good friends and partners at ATVO. First of all, to Andy Warner and And One Design, to Simon Grossman, and all the work that they've done getting this new graphics package up and running for you in time for this race. What a first round of the championship we have had. 2 different winners. We've seen ourselves excitement, we've seen controversy in both races, but now we head ourselves over to Lexington, Ohio, and to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in 2 weeks' time. Don't miss it. In the meanwhile, goodbye, and see you later from Barber Motorsports Park.